Hey everyone, I'm Seth with AROYA. We are here today with Josh Ginsberg, the head grower over at SOZO Health in Michigan. Today we're going to be talking about his experience in the industry, his background a little bit, SOZO, and growing in Michigan. So we'll get into a little bit of how things are going, a little bit of the nitty gritty growing, and anything else that might come up. Alrighty.
Seth, I asked to join. You see that?
Is that the? Yes, I see that now. My bad. All right. So I think, except here we go. It's not letting me accept. Do you want to try to get in again real quick, Josh?
What's it saying?
Nothing. It just,
You gotta try to get in again real quick, Josh. Yeah, I did it a second time. What's it saying?
So Alex, when I hit accept, nothing happens.
You gotta try to get in again real quick, Josh.
Do you want me to?
I hit accept. Yeah, let's see. Just sent the third request. Here we go. Thank you. He can keep requesting to join.
Yeah, every time I hit accept. There we go.
What's up, dude?
Not much. Learning the ways of Instagram.
Yeah, right.
Alrighty. So, yeah, let's get started, Josh. It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking, man. You want to start out a little bit, just telling us about your growing career and kind of where you've made it to now?
Yeah, sure. Graduated from Temple University in 2013 and was offered a job to trim for a company in Colorado. So I packed my car and drove out there. I spent a couple of years with that company, moving up the ranks, trimmer, harvester, grower, room manager, things like that. Moved around from a couple companies. And then in the summer of 2019, I got offered the director of cultivation here at SOZO. So I took that position and I've been here since. We brought in plants in 2019, pandemic hit, and that's pretty much our whole startup.
That's awesome. And, your background, I guess, coming out of the medical community, you've seen a lot of changes over the last few years, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not just in cultivation, but in sales, the culture. I mean, the consumers are getting a lot smarter. They know what they're looking for. So, yeah, tons of changes. It's been crazy. I mean, just between Colorado and Michigan, it's a little different too. So.
Oh, yeah. And even seeing the scale of everything, right? Like, where you're at now is a pretty impressive facility compared to anything we'd have seen 5 years ago.
Yeah, totally. I mean, people were like growing in basements or they took old facilities. I mean, I remember rooms where you kind of had to duck just to get into it, walking through one grow room to get to the other grow room. I remember, like 30 lights was a big deal back then. And right now I've got, smallest room is over 80. So it's pretty crazy how much has changed so fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's gone from such a, almost small private venture to being, I don't want to say legitimate business because a lot, all these growers now they're licensed are legitimate, of course, but like,
yeah, totally.
Almost having that feeling of big business. Like it's a long-term career now rather than like, I'm just at a job for now until I figure out the next big thing.
Yeah, it definitely used to feel like that. And now we're, being in Michigan where there's all the car factory plants, we feel like a factory ourselves. I mean, we're big enough to support over 100 employees, over 70 gardeners. I mean, it's crazy of how many careers that we're able to start for people in the cannabis industry, just ourselves. And then, seeing all the other businesses around the state and in other states, it's getting crazy for sure.
Oh yeah. And I mean, also being part of a company that's like, really pushing it and staying ahead of the curve there in Michigan. It's quite competitive over there right now.
Yeah, definitely competitive. Yeah, man. I mean, it is, especially for us, because I know that we're doing some things that not everybody else is doing, specifically
Mhm.
from, like what we're doing for our employees. As some, like I said, I've been doing this for almost 9 years now, and it started at like 12.50 an hour, 15 an
Mhm.
hour. Nothing really more than 20 an hour. And our entry level growers, whether they have experience or not, they're starting about 35K. They're getting medical benefits. They get PTO. I mean, we're legitimately creating careers by giving people jobs that they don't have to leave to get the next thing to make another dollar per hour or something like that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No.
super proud of SOZO, and really happy to take the job and come out here, move from Pennsylvania to Colorado, then Colorado to Michigan. Keep chasing the dream, and now I'm living it, man. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and it's I don't know. To me, it's mind blowing and awesome to see companies like SOZO where that's actually the goal, and they're pulling it off. Like you guys
Yeah,
are
yeah,
running a clean
absolutely.
facility. You're not having nearly obviously setup's always wild,
Yeah.
expansion's crazy. But what you guys have done has been smart about your expansion, and made sure you had access to all the different tools you need, not being afraid to go out and get advice when you need it and try to figure out everything you need to do to make that facility run as efficiently as you can and be able to, continue having a good business and not stress about it all the time.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly why we have AROYA.
Mhm.
I view it just like having a pair of scissors and a bucket, or whatever you're using to take care of your plants. This is just another one of the tools, and um, it's crazy because it used to be just a bunch of people picking up a pot and telling us, oh, it's light, so it needs
Mhm.
water. Bump the feeds or shit. I mean, there used not to be feeds, so who knows what we didn't know. And that's kind of the whole
Yep.
thing of, like you said, about not being afraid to ask questions. Is it would be foolish for us to think that we have all the answers. It hasn't really been studied for a really long time. It's only been the last few years where there's like legitimately scientific data on it. And we want to make sure that we're gathering that data, and we can't do some of that. Certainly not to this scale. I mean, we're up to over 2,100 flowering lights. It's really hard to collect data on
Mhm.
30,000 plants at every given moment. I've got stacks of papers just sitting to the left that people were taking data by hand, and now we need a data entry analyst to put all that information together.
Right.
And the moment we got AROYA, I've been staring at that screen constantly, just gathering as much information as possible. I mean, it's only been here, for a couple months now. We haven't even really had multiple rooms with full cycles. I've already learned so much about the individual cultivar. It's literally having, like the world's greatest grower, top level plant scientists constantly on call. And then, you and I get to talk regularly, and I get to ask you questions. I mean, we didn't just buy AROYA. We hired guys like you and Jason and Luke and the rest of your team. You guys are
Mhm.
essentially another branch now of SOZO's employees. And so it's great to know that I can just kind of hit you up and say, hey, this looks weird. And you might tell me, oh, it's super easy, it's just down there. Or, hey, we've never seen that. I'm glad we're talking about it
Yeah.
now. Let's try
Let's
to
look
get to
into
the
it.
bottom of it. Dude, that's
Yeah.
super cool, because that doesn't happen with most places. Usually you get the sales team and they push you off to engineering, and engineering pushes you back to sales, and then it's like, okay, well, we either deal with this thing that's 75% of what we were hoping it would be, or we
Mhm.
just completely move on from it. And you guys are updating the software literally daily, and so we're seeing changes regularly. And Luke reaching out to me personally saying, hey, anything that you have that's going to make your user experience that much easier, shoot me the feedback. We love it. And I took him up on that immediately. We had an hour call literally like 2 days later, and I ran down this crazy list that I had gotten from the rest of my team. And everything I mentioned to him, he was like, yeah, that sounds great. Let me show you this demo. We've already got a few of those things in the works. And so it's really nice to know that, like, I'm not just buying the equipment, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, move on. I've got an entire team of you and everybody else making sure that it happens right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I honestly love being able to be in that side of the industry now because coming from the growing side, it was pretty crazy for the longest time to, access information and go out and talk to people about this stuff. It was just kind of, even in the academic world, if you talk to other people in horticulture or plant science, it was kind of like, we'll talk about everything, but we won't say cannabis.
Yeah,
You
right,
know,
exactly. Yeah,
kind of hit this point.
make
We're
sure
like,
I ask about tomatoes, right? So I can get
yeah,
as
yeah,
close as the information I want. Yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
that's why you guys are great, because I feel like I have all that information. The I think the big selling point for us was the idea to figure out what's going on in the media. And
Mhm.
for so long, it's been, 10 different people with different strengths and different intensities picking up the plants and going, yeah, this feels like 48%, or, no, it's actually more
Yep.
like 51, right? And so you're constantly playing this guessing game. And, when you've got a facility like ours where it's so large, even within the same cultivar, each plant is kind of behaving a little bit differently. And so to have eyes on a part of the plant and part of growing that nobody ever was really looking into, scientifically, and then collecting that data and interpreting it. We have par meters for our lights, we have, temperature and humidity, and we can monitor all these other things, but the most important aspect is happening in this place that you can't see. And for us to not kind of stick a probe in there and figure out what's going on seemed silly. So, um, you know, this is allowing us to make those data-driven decisions that every company, every cannabis company says they want to make.
Mhm.
But the data that people collect is just anecdotal. You might have some guy who just got high at lunch and now he's walking into the garden and sticking the probe under the wrong plant and collecting data that now skews the whole thing, right?
Yep.
I know that the sensors in these rooms, they're not getting high at lunch. And not only that, but they're not taking one data point at one single snapshot of that day. They're literally taking it every minute.
Yep.
So I'm able to see it as it changes constantly. And so we're literally making decisions now driven by actual data that's collected from day one till the end. And then the ability to compare, run after run, or cycle from how did it do in 6 versus 15? Okay, well, what happened in 15 that was different in 6? I don't have to go through this crazy long list of pages. Or, what I used to do was I would make these harvest reports by hand, where I would literally run through journal. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Right. So everybody knows that's
Yeah.
how it's always been. It's literally
Yep.
been like a clipboard hanging on the door, or one of those college calendars you'd have on your desk, taped up to the
Yep.
board. And we still have those because it's hard to fully change. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Look, you guys have been great. The system's been great. The people have been great. It's awesome.
Good. One thing I think a lot of people don't really know about is the task management side. So one thing we did set
Totally.
out at the beginning to do was, identify where like AROYA can really help some of these operations. And a big weakness we found was people like yourself being incredibly overloaded, trying to, let's say, increase their efficiency, and then realizing, okay, managing and analyzing all this data is now like I need to pay someone just to
Yeah.
organize this for me. And then, then I'm just at the point where I'm going to spend hours poring over it, doing something about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't be in 21 places at once, let alone two. And so
Yeah.
this is, the way I kind of describe AROYA to the team is like, AROYA is the hotline. You guys are the detectives. You just got a call that a plant isn't performing well. Go check it out. And you know what? Maybe it's actually doing well at a lower saturation point. And now we're actually learning something about this
Hmm.
plant, rather than, just for lack of a better phrase, some heady bro saying, "Oh, she's a real drinker, look out for
Yeah.
that." It's like, no, actually what's happening there, and why is she drinking so much? And is it, a lack of watering, or is she actually taking everything that we're giving her? And we can track that in real time. I can literally
Yep.
program a feed and watch it happen inside the plant in the media. I don't have to let the feed happen and then wait a few minutes and then go pick up every plant by hand to make sure it's working properly.
Right. Exactly. And you mean, just the ability to have a little bit of redundancy there on that.
Yeah.
You can set your alerts and go home and okay, it's going to notify me if that solenoid fails. Like I'll know.
Yeah. And like you were
Little
asking
things.
earlier, about the task management specifically. Sorry to cut you off there. I want to make sure I answer your question, because you guys are helping in a lot of other ways than just what I've already been talking about. But like right now, and this is kind of how it's been at some of the other places I've worked at, but you know, the manager at the end of the day will write it up on a whiteboard, or maybe they'll send out text messages to people, and then things just kind of get lost in the text. Or, you know, I found this, you know, just the other day, people are standing out in front of the whiteboard all trying to figure out where they're all going.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to do that anymore. You know, I'm working through the kinks right now with our management group to make sure that it's nice and simple before we break it out to every individual. But, you know, I can walk around the facility during my walkthrough. I can see a tray or a crop or a zone that needs some specific attention. I just create the task, assign the person, and now they're already aware of it. I can give them the deadline right there. I can tell them the prioritization of it. Is it a high or low? Like, how do you need to run down here right now and take a look at it? Or, you know, when you get a chance at the end of your day, make sure you do it before you leave. And I know that my team loves it because they don't have to remember what the whiteboard said for them to do at noon or after I finish the task, run all the way down there and figure it out. They're literally getting notifications. And honestly, the thing that I love about it on my end specifically is I can see people literally click completed task or start the task, completed task. And then I can see, all right, that person's a little inefficient in what they're doing. Maybe I should go talk to that gardener and kind of figure out what's going on. Or, oh, great, they're meeting the deadline expectation. I can see that and I can track that. I mean, look, when we're talking about the data that this place is tracking, it's the labor that you guys are tracking for us as well. I can literally tell you if we're running efficiently from a labor perspective.
Oh, yeah. Even looking at some strains and saying, okay, those, you know, for varying reasons take us 3 times as long to get
for foliation.
Sure. Like, we might have to take that into consideration when we dump 3 times the amount of man hours into this plant versus, you know, one on the other side of the room.
Yeah, dude. And that's like, it literally is part of the data-driven decisions, because if I'm recognizing that we're spending twice as much labor on this one crop, but she's not testing as much as some of this other stuff, or she doesn't yield as much as other stuff, you know, she's a nice smoke. We like her. She looks pretty. We want to keep her around, but she just takes so much effort and so much extra work that maybe it's not cost effective. You know, ultimately, ultimately this is a business. And if we're not generating a profit, then it's not a business anymore. It's just a bunch of people growing. And that won't be for very long either if, you know, people aren't getting paid. So, you know, it is really important that we track the data for the tasks too. And, you know, part of the thing that I want to touch on here specifically for like how we were able, me and the rest of the management team, to get ownership behind this is, you know, the ability to get our return on investment almost instantaneously. And we have seen markedly increased yields. It's been, you know, minimally here and there, but like I said, we haven't even had a full cycle yet with the whole system from start to finish. I can already tell that all the new rooms coming online are exceptional. They're doing exactly what we want them to do, and we're steering them in ways that I didn't even know was a thing. I mean, before I heard of you guys, crop steering wasn't a thing. It wasn't a term that was used. You know, you Google it and it wouldn't show you anything other than you guys. So, you know, at first it was like, I don't know, you know, maybe it's another one of these companies that they say all the right things and they got the smart people behind them, and so they can sell it well, but how do I sell it? You know, I'm being asked questions that only you guys can answer. You know, why is this plant performing better over there and over there? Oh, hold on, let me grab my 30-page harvest report and I'll spend my entire day, you know, an entire day's worth of pay from you guys to take care of this. And okay, all of a sudden that doesn't make sense. Let's not waste our time with that. So, dude, I just can't say enough.
One, when you guys hooked it up, even before we started talking about crop steering, you were already making irrigation choices just based on what you could now see for 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, we walk in there and
somebody needs some water.
Yeah, right, totally. I mean, you walk in and like the plant looks great, and you're like, okay, everything's fine. But then you pick them up and they're like, you know, some are heavy, some are light, and it's like, all right, let's try to figure out really what's going on here. And I think the thing that made the most sense for us was getting the SOLIS sensor first. Let's kind of see, you know, if this is even telling us the right thing. And It worked, and we started making small decisions off of that. I mean, we had Solus in here back in the winter, and I had guys coming in, you know, at the crack of dawn and stay until eight o'clock doing manual readings to see if we could actually steer our plants in a direction. And just with a handheld sensor, we saw a little bit of an increase in a few crops that weren't performing as well. But yeah, I mean, it's easy to walk through the garden and say the garden looks great. It's another thing to walk through the garden and say that it's optimized, right? I can tell you if the plant is alive or not, but can I tell you if it's thriving or not? I'd have to go back over 5 cycles worth of data, fish through and comb through all the variables that happen left and right of, you know, we had somebody fall and so they broke a few plants. I mean, how does that affect this? We had a line burst in the middle of the night. So what did that do to feeding and things like that? You know, stuff that I can literally say, this is what it did to the humidity in the room. This is what it did to the water content of those rows. This is the loss that we occurred. And this is why it's so important to, you know, make sure that that doesn't happen again. We didn't realize how detrimental some of those things were. And, you know, just the instantaneous data collection. Like I could pull up right now, I could tell you what, you know, how all of my plants are doing right now, right in this moment.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
Well, I think it allows you so much as a grower to take, you know, a lot of the intuitions and knowledge that you've already had just from staring at these plants for almost a decade of your life. And now you can quantify that. You can say, all right, I see this. For years, I've been chasing this with runoff samples and my guesses. And now I go, okay, I'm looking at this plant. It looks deficient, but the EC is really high. Yeah, I'm going to go get a tissue test. I'm going to go, you know, I actually can make some choices now about what I'm going to do rather than just, oh, let's flush it and see what happens.
Right, exactly.
Or let's throw some CalMag at it. It looks like it needs some calcium. It's like, now we can see some of those things going on in the root zone, and like it gives you such a more complete picture. And even without talking to me, you can progress your knowledge so quick just by that experience, you know?
Yeah, I've learned a lot about growing and a lot about the plants. You know, I went to university for 4 years studying it, and I feel like I've learned more about my specific job and what I'm doing here as the lead cultivator, just by having AROYA and watching these graphs. I mean, yeah, like you said, like, oh, flush it. It was like, okay, you got root rot. It's like, all right, well, when did that happen?
Yeah, why? Yeah, exactly. Where can we look back
before it was like, I have no idea. You know, it must have been in veg, right? All the flower guys are like, oh, it must have been in veg. All the veg guys are like, they left here perfect, right? So, but now I can literally go in and I can look in real time. It's not just the one snapshot of that day, or like, you know, God forbid another company where you have maybe like a monitor on the outside of the room and you're just kind of fat fingering the graph. It's like, no, I needed that at 10, not 10:05, not 9:55. You know, on AROYA, I'm just scrolling with my mouse perfectly in real time, you know, up, like I said, up to the minute. So I can tell you right there, it was literally at 9:58 last night is when it started. And so, okay, what happened at 9:58? Now I can talk to the maintenance team and the people that work with the mechanical and the HVAC and all that stuff and make sure, okay, did something go down? What did that, right? Rather than, like you said, with the guessing game, I'll flush it. I'll turn the dimmers down. That'll help.
You know, just like, all right, let's say we have an issue with like losing power in the room, and then you figure out like, all right, or, you know, or there's a storm outside, part of your power grid goes down, your HVAC shot in that room. At least now you can look back and go like, all right, we got about 6 hours of plants actually uptaking water, and then we run out of any water potential in the air. It's too saturated. Like, that's all we got. That's our window. If we lose power now, we know, you know, that is very actionable. We got to do it real quick. Yeah, I mean, we'll have problems we wouldn't have even imagined before.
We could create a protocol almost instantly on exactly what needs to happen in scenarios that I don't think anybody could ever predict. I mean, you know, when I was in Colorado, we had a big blizzard once and the power went down, and that was really the first time that ever happened. So, you know, we're running extension cords to hook lights up and stuff like that. And I could, you know, if we had AROYA at that time, I could basically tell anybody, like you said, this is the window, and if we don't do X before that time period, we're going to lose this.
Well, yeah, we might as well go cut it down. So let's
let's
so get on this.
We can prioritize what we need to be doing and all of that. It's super helpful, dude, for real.
Oh, yeah. And just like I said, just so much more of your own knowledge building and like looking at this as a tool to really reinforce that, you know. And I mean, To me, honestly, just the fact that you're allowed or able to look at these graphs in real time. I mean, 10 years ago, my job was to make graphs like this, not
Yeah, right.
cannabis. And,
Exactly. Yeah.
the real time thing is mind blowing. We used to take a whole run's worth of data for a given crop and then make a graph like this and analyze it and go, okay,
Yeah.
what can we do next time? And it's like changing that mentality to what can I do tomorrow is a huge game changer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not even. I can figure out literally right now. Yeah,
Yep.
that feed wasn't enough. No, no, no. We get the very next feed, or actually right now. Let's go ahead and program another P1 because we didn't get back up. We got to take care of it right now, rather than
Yep.
coming in the next day and let me look at the crop and like they look okay, right? They're
Right.
alive. I can tell you that they're alive. I can't tell you if we've optimized them, right? And like
Yep.
I've already learned so much about, what we need to be doing from a crop steering perspective on, my sour garlic cookies, my cookies and chem, my Miracle Alien cookies, the motor breath. And like I said, we haven't even had a full run yet. So I can already tell you just by doing like 2 rows next to each other, monitoring the whole thing, dude, this row is so much beefier. The nug set so much earlier. You can already see like the full expression of the plant a few days ahead of it. Let's go take a look at the graphs. Let's see why that is. Okay, they're literally sitting 7% higher on a regular basis, and
Exactly.
they didn't have that crazy dry down on the 14th. And so,
Mhm.
you know, that's it, right then and there. And so the next time I see something trending like that, specifically with her, I can jump on it right there and
Yeah.
I can save that one moment, right? Because that's like the big issue with this is it's a living thing that we're dealing with for, up to 15 weeks, depending on your veg time and your flowering time and things like that. For us, it's, about 15 on average, sometimes a little
Mhm.
less. But I can tell you, like, being able to find the moment that it's happening and fixing it right then and there is so much easier on my mental state, right? My ability to
Yep.
sleep at night, rather than just kind of crossing my fingers and saying, well, I hope tomorrow there's no issues. And then,
Yep.
and even to that extent, I could sit in my bed on my phone or on my iPad watching graphs. Like I get an alert or the room turned off. Let me just go make sure that the lights aren't on.
Yep.
Hey, the lights are supposed to be on, but the HVAC is down. I mean, the the monitoring is even more in depth and more fine tuned than the monitoring equipment we had in here before. I did a little bit of an audit to kind of see how far off we are,
Mm.
and the stuff that I had in there was sitting about 2 degrees and 5% in humidity higher than what your monitors are, and just a change of that, just literally that, like 2 degrees, Seth, 2 degrees
Mhm.
changes the whole thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
I thought we
We're
were
talking about.
doing. I thought we were
Mhm.
doing. I mean, I'm looking at my graphs, the fat finger graph that I keep
Yeah.
poking around trying to make sure I'm on the right spot, and I'm literally looking at it. It's like it says 80. It says 80. The high was 81, low was 79. It was a perfect day. It
Mhm.
turns out we were, hanging around 76, 79, and we weren't doing justice for the plants. And so, again, I could
Yep.
tell you the plants were alive, but I couldn't tell you if they were thriving. And yeah, I feel like I can do that now.
And that's the goal too, is eventually optimizing all of our inputs, right? Like we got limited square footage, we got limited power we want
Sure.
to use. We got to maximize that. This is just business. It's not. And I think one thing that I love about the cannabis industry is we can combine that pursuit of efficiency along with like the passion that's going into growing.
Totally.
Just because we're, not physically touching the plants and doing as hard a work as we used to. It doesn't mean we're not still growing plants that we can't put a lot of passion into it. It's
For
just a
sure.
little different now. And to me, the big difference, where I was like, yes, finally, was just that big switch from filling pots to pre-filled media, whether it be cocoa or Rockwell. Was like, oh yes, this is moving into the future now. Like the
Right.
hope is here because growing plants is fun.
Right.
Breaking your
And that's
back's not,
no, dude. And having you guys like when I bring some of the managers in here, I'll kind of flip my monitor around. I'll be like, I want to talk about this graph and kind of why it stands out to
Mm-hmm.
me. Everyone's like glued in. It's like the first time that when you're not in this industry and you're kind of looking at it, and this is how I did before I got into it, was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, they're science. I remember biology class. I remember science class. Like, these guys are scientists. They probably walk around in lab coats with, monocles, and they're checking out
Yeah.
detailed. When in reality, it's like you're a glorified janitor, right? You're cleaning up the
Cleaning,
cultivation,
cleaning.
keep,
Yeah.
keeping it a safe space for the plants to grow. And so to whip out a graph like that and kind of show the team, all right, here's the real science of what we're doing here. It's totally changed the game for them. The level of care, like, you care because you like what you're doing, you like your job, you like weed,
Hmm.
you like smoking weed, you like the culture around weed, and you like what you're doing. But now it's like everything that I hoped that this would be is here. It's real. It's not just, me writing down that the hygrometer in the far right corner says 79.8 degrees at 4 o'clock. What the hell did it say the other 23 hours and 59 minutes, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. It's refreshing to see everything progress that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm still mind blown, like watching coming out of research, going into commercial cannabis and watching this industry catch up. What's been rad is like it's full of people just like you guys that are willing to push it technologically. You want to do better all the time, and cannabis has the value to really push that. You don't have to be a farmer farming 10,000 acres of wheat and working
Yeah.
with multiple universities and
Yeah.
grant organizations, trade, like
Yeah. I mean, like I
you
said,
guys can just push this active development of the things you want and
yeah,
get those results like pretty quickly, and it's
we do. Like
yeah.
I said, we haven't had a full run. I can already see that, like I said, we've made decisions based on the data we're seeing, from environmental aspects to crop steering aspects to just cultivar location practices, just all of that
Yeah.
stuff. Without even the full cycle. Like I said, I mean, having the system is like it's like we're working with a university, except you guys are responding much more frequently than any other people outside, right? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, things move slow in the research world for
Yeah,
sure.
totally, totally. Yeah, I mean, I feel like with the system everywhere, I'm doing R&D constantly, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got two carriages right next to each other. We're monitoring them completely, all facets of it. Let's do something a little bit different here than here. And I get to run R&D every single time, and the data's not being taken by humans, by hand,
Hmm.
by handheld equipment that maybe somebody dropped, and now I have to hold the screen perfectly just to see if read the par correctly. Is it a 6 or a 9? I can't tell. Well, that's a big difference when you're talking about 600 to 900, and
Yeah.
don't have to do any of that anymore. So, like, I mean, the headaches are gone, the backbreaking work is gone, the data is legitimate. I can actually do something with it rather than, yeah, I got this binder of PPFD readings for 7
Hmm.
cycles now. It's like, okay, and
Yep.
right, that's
Yeah,
how it always
that's
was. Or like people would mix a barrel and somebody would mix the barrel the wrong way. I watched this happen, right? I was
hmm
a grower before I was sitting behind the desk. People just just what was it yesterday? All right, well today it's 6.0 and it's you know
yeah.
2 EC, and we're gonna run through the barrel today. Nobody will even know.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
bro, that's how we were growing. That's how people grew. It's
Yep.
crazy that that's the thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it was just it's for so long the value was high enough that it was like you could kind of get away with, kind of running a ragtag operation. But
Yeah. Yeah.
now it's industrializing like the rest of agriculture. And
Super
there's
competitive.
always going to be a place, I think, for like some of those, boutique producers and stuff. But that's always going to be limited for sure. There's always going to have to be people with factory style square footage cranking it out. I mean, how many people are in Michigan? I don't know off the top of my head, but
Yeah, me either. But
I
there's
think it's more than Washington State.
yeah,
you know?
oh, dude, it's crazy competitive, and I gotta believe that we're not the only people collecting a lot of data and making data-driven decisions. But it's certainly not as easy for them as it is for us. I can do it in
Mhm.
real time. I can tell you right now what we need to be doing tomorrow, what we need to be doing next cycle, what we need to be doing next year.
Yep.
What do we need from a cultivation space in order to optimize our stuff. You know, that's changed. Even in our own company, we've had 3 separate phases during the startup to get the company built out from a cultivation perspective. And phase 1 is different than phase 2, which is different than phase 3. It's gotten better every single time because we've learned about those things. But, you know, just looking back at some of the grows we used to work in, I mean, like I said, man, walking through one grow just to get to the next one. I mean, the nightmare was back then. It's just insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. Coming from just totally retrofitted buildings to like, this is what we can do. But yeah, then actually learning, and now you can like precisely repeat some of your recipes and schedules. You know, that to me is huge. That's one thing that's been so hard in this industry so far, is like everyone's a 4-pound a light grower, except this thing happened, right? You know, my pump failed one day. So
one thing didn't happen, we would have hit 4 a light just like everybody else, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, now everyone's getting like a little more in tune with like, all right, how do we hit that? What's actually possible? What does 4 pounds of light mean? Because, you know, in today's world, there's a lot of fixtures out there, a wide range of efficiencies too. So, you know, we're slowly rolling over to like grams per square foot. That's a huge thing, you know. And when you start hitting, you know, boy, a lot of people, once they roll over to that, it's a big mind, you know, big mind opener for them, because they're like, oh man, I fill this room up. And you're like,
I'm wasting space. I didn't realize how much space between my light and my canopy, or between the ceiling and the light, or the HVAC, or whatever. How much I could have had an entire row of plants growing up there.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you go from like retrofitting an old room with you're trying to shove these huge dehues in there, and now with 24/7 data logging, you can be like, oh, we can actually get away with like 3 or 4 smaller units and stagger this, and I can now set a program overnight based on this curve I'm seeing and go, all right, here's when they need to kick on, and now I'm not having that, you know, 10% drop or 10% rise in humidity.
And you know, for me and any other grower out there listening to this, you can sleep better at night. 100% guarantee. If it doesn't do anything for you other than that, it's been such a relief knowing that like I can literally just take a quick peek at the graphs and be like, all right, everything's exactly where it should be. I don't have to worry about, hey, did that guy turn the valve back on, or shoot, did he turn the valve off? You know, what happened there when they were done spraying? Did the lights come back on, or did the lights flip off when they were supposed to? I mean, this fact that a contactor not hitting when it's supposed to could ruin an entire crop for me. I could tell right in the moment I'm supposed to, rather than coming in the next morning and trying to figure it out. You know, I'd come in the next morning and wouldn't even know. It would be 4 or 5 days later where I'd be like, well, stuff's not looking right. Let me go to the cameras and, you know, scroll back through every single night until I find, hey, there it is, that one night. You know, oddly enough, I remember not going to sleep very well that night. And, you know, it's just all that stuff that just kind of changes.
Wake up, check it, and roll back over, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Even if you're like, I got to fix that in the morning, you're like, well, suspicion confirmed.
Yeah. I mean, dude, Seth, it's as deep as like I had growers in the past literally taking photos of everything before they left, so that when they would go home at night and get high and they'd be like, oh, shoot, no, let me look at my photos. It's like, no, now you can look at the graph. You can look at the graph while you're smoking. You don't even have to wait. You know, you don't have to put it down to, you know, go through this scroll of photos or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a big time saver for everyone, and being able to extend a lot of that, you know, view, even some of your employees that aren't making these decisions and stuff. But you can easily teach people when you have a tool like this and say, hey, these are the things we're looking for. We're going to set you know, if you've got your irrigation crew, like, hey, we're going to give you guys alerts too. I'm going to teach you what to look for on the graph. That way it's an extra layer of, we're all learning, we're all getting better. And it just leads into like you were talking, you guys want everyone at SOZO to actually have a career, you know, not just like, hey, here's a transitionary job.
And we can't do that if we're not sitting talking about the stuff that AROYA is getting us, right? Exactly. The only thing we would normally talk about is, well, she's a big drinker, make sure you're feeding her well. Or she doesn't like the light, you know, turn her down a little bit. I can't tell you why. You know, another topic for another day or whatever.
Right.
Or, you know, get back to pruning. We're not pruning enough. And, you know, I hate the fact that that's kind of how I've had to approach it in the past, but I don't have to anymore. It's really easy to just show it to them. You don't have to have a 4-year degree or even remember what you learned in high school. You can learn it right here every single moment. And like I said, I could pull up the graph right now and learn something here on our live feed. It's literally like that. And yeah, like the leaf area index, I knew it was a thing. I knew it was important, but I only thought it was important in, outside. Why would it be
Right.
important here for us? And now I can legitimately tell you, yeah, this row is not filling out as well as it did last
Yep.
time. Or I put an extra plant to kind of increase my density to make sure I could pull a little bit extra weight, and it actually overcrowded it. Look at the leaf
Yep.
area index. It shot up instantly. It was literally 12 days before it hit peak last time. And so now we got to over prune and do all this extra work. And it's like, I don't have to make that decision and then wait until the harvest is down. And then it goes through a month of post-production processing just to figure out,
Right.
okay, this is what it tested. This is what it weighed. This is what it sold at. I can literally tell you that right this second.
Yep. And you're collecting that particular data without doing anything else other than having your sensors on the table.
Yep.
So like what it's allowing
Pretty
you to
simple.
do is catch, you're collecting data that, like, if you were running a research program, you'd be paying people to go out and take these points all day, every
Yeah.
day. And instead it's
Every
just
day,
to,
constantly, every plant.
yeah, like I look at a lot of these graphs sometimes. I'm like, man, we can really, like, who's going to start publishing stuff, and you're going to see AROYA graphs in academic
Yeah.
papers, because it's coming, sooner than you think.
Absolutely. And I don't want to give too much away, but I know that that's where we want to be. We want to be leading it. Like I said, we can do side-by-sides right next to each other, dialed in the data instantaneously, constantly over the entire cycle from the day it was cloned until the day it literally left our entire facility and went to a dispensary, with the things that you guys are doing in the post-production area as well. Like, you guys are covering everything. And like, one thing that I know we fight with some of the ownership on is, oh, well, we have a platform that does kind of that stuff. Oh, well, we use Slack a lot. I love Slack personally. Absolutely love it. It's changed the game for us, communicating, keeping threads of each individual room. But you guys have that too. And I'm currently right now working hard with the managers to get us off of Slack, something that I can't even believe I'm saying out loud, let alone on a recording, right? I don't want anybody to play this back and hold it against me, but I'm trying to move away from the thing that's kind of saved me from a management perspective, because you guys can do it for us. And it's tuned to me. It's tuned to the garden. And if there's something I want to see fixed, I just give Luke a quick chat and say, hey, man, do you think you could set it up this way? It would be super easy because of this, this, and this. Yeah, no problem. Actually, here's the demo. Why don't we walk you through, one of the beta tests and see what you like? And it's like, dude, the fact that a third-party company is calling me, asking me to run beta on them is crazy. It just really is crazy. Nobody would ever do that before. And just that idea is like, it's tailored to me. I feel like it's not AROYA, it's AROYA for Josh, or it's AROYA for SOZO. It's for us, and we've already gotten a lot out of it. We're learning so much, and I couldn't be happier. It's literally the best employee that we have here. No offense to any of the employees that might be listening to right now. I love you guys, that, but you know how much AROYA has helped us out here. We've got the best gardener on the planet working with us 24/7, rather than just 8 hours a day or 5 days a week, or as a consultant over the phone once a month. It's super helpful.
Yep, absolutely. I'm, and that's one thing I do love about this job, is actually getting to work with the growers. Like, it's so much more effective to talk to people and see what they actually need and get out there and just see what's going on, than it is to go like, all right, we think you need this. Because the reality is, even still, taking some of these different values, like DLI is a huge one. That traditionally is very important for outdoor producers of vegetables, anything like that, greenhouse growing, anything. Calculating or dealing with DLI is not difficult indoors, because you don't really have a variable DLI. It's just where you set your lights, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's been interesting where we're like, okay, we have this value. How do we bring this to the market that and make this sensor and reading have value to our customers? And a lot of the interesting part has just been like watching this kind of mesh of standard horticultural terms and stuff, and then being incorporated into the cannabis world. Like I said, DLI is a great example. It's a lot of people don't calculate their light usage that way,
Nope.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah, yeah.
now that they have access to it, like it slowly rolls over, and then it's like, okay, I can use this for more and more things. So I
I mean,
love being
shoot.
able to bring people that stuff they don't even know is going to help them in the future, and then
Yeah, I
hear
mean,
what they have to say.
specifically to the DLI, I'm glad you brought it up because, like, you know, we use products here to maintain pests and pathogens, and you know, knock on wood, we haven't had a failed test or any outbreaks
Mm-hmm.
in over a year now. Super proud of that. Um, but you know, to that degree, like with the DLI, when we spray a product, if we're doing it during the dark cycle, we could be affecting our ability to flower, and so we try to do it during the day cycle. But now we're messing up our DLI, and I can legitimately tell you how many hours of photosynthesis we've lost by spraying.
Right.
And you know, if it turns out to be a whole day's worth at the end of it, I mean, I know certain growers, you know, that extra day is huge. You know,
That's
sometimes
1.5% of that plant's life, you know?
totally. I like, you know, we used to, you know, I hope Edmonds isn't listening to this, but Ed, back at the last garden, you know, we used to flip a day early and then call the second day day one to get that extra day. Like it was that crucial to the final product. When you know we're demanded 63 days, 64 days
Yeah.
to get that extra day's worth of growth in there, and the fact that I'm losing it by trying to treat my plants really makes me try to rethink how we do that again to maximize what we're doing.
Right.
Anybody can keep a plant alive. It needs water and light. But to maximize the output of it is what's going to make this business great. And those are some of the things that we need to think about. Those are
Yep.
some of the things that, you know, honestly, I'll take it back. Don't need to think about it. It's right there. I don't even need to think about it. It's literally projected right there on
Yep.
my monitor. It's already done for me.
Well, and you can quantify it too. You know, it's like water content. You can start looking and saying, all right, if I've been 5% low for 10 days, I
Right.
actually have noticed per bench loss in grams on this. Like I can quantify how much those little mess ups cost me and even say, all right, we can plan for X amount of internal insurance on each run, basically. Like, hey, marketing, you guys get, guess what? 50 pounds. Normally we grow about 60, but I'm telling you 50 every time. I'm being
Yeah.
safe. And you guys, we all get cool little bonuses when there's more or whatever.
Right. Right.
But,
Right.
you know, maintaining that consistency is huge because, like, I know, I'm sure you guys have gone through it, you know, the past 2 years. It's like if you have any inconsistency, whoever's selling your weed gets pretty bummed.
Totally.
You know,
Totally.
they're trying to, that's their part of the process. They're trying to plan this out and keep product moving. And when you've got interrupted supply flows or any kind of, you know, change that's negative as far as quantity goes and not positive, it disrupts that, you know. And you guys know in this market, that's half the battle, is just being on the shelves for people to see.
Totally.
You know, if you suddenly can't put out product for a month and you're not on any shelves, I'm not saying you're going to go out of business, but you're going to be building back up from there.
Look, they're going to have gotten product from somebody else, and they're certainly going to call them first before calling us back after we just told them we didn't have stuff for a month. So absolutely, dude.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So on all levels, just really being the most consistent as possible and having the tools to do it is huge in this industry.
Yeah, and like, you know, I can run through multiple cycles. I can literally have the graph like superimposed of like the leaf area index from last time to this time, or I can literally compare. I mean, when I say compare, I literally mean every piece of data that's collected by you guys, by the system, by the sensors, I can compare. And so I could find the one small difference that made this test a little bit higher this time. And so I can go ahead and tell my boss, you know, we're going to be able to keep it at that percentage because we found the thing that kind of put it over the edge, so to speak. Whereas before it was like, all right, we're going to do 5 different things this run. And then it goes well. And you're like, not really sure which of the 5 it was.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Right. Or
Exactly.
again, you know, somebody who, you know, isn't taking the data seriously, recording it by hand, shifts the numbers. And now all of a sudden we make a decision because somebody got stoned and wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or like
you know,
those days entering data on a spreadsheet when you get to the end of like a couple hundred values and there's like 2 extra boxes and you go, oh no,
Yeah.
Which one did I
Where,
miss? No,
yeah,
that's
yeah. Or how did I copy one by accident? Is it because
yeah.
I'm reading it here while I'm typing over here, and
Yep.
yeah, man. It's that part of my job has gone away, and so I can really now dive into what each cultivar needs, and that's a decision that I don't even really have to make. Roy is telling me it. I just have to be the one to pull the string, right? So
Yep.
yeah, man, it's made my life a lot easier. It's helped the gardeners. I mean, we've saved a lot in labor. I don't have to have people walking around picking up plants to tell
Right.
me or to tell themselves or to tell a fertigation department, like, where are we at with this? How is it going? Does
Well,
it
and
need more? Does it need less?
that burns out employees too.
Yeah, no,
You know,
nobody. Seb, if
that
I
first
say the
month
word,
you're like, this is cool. I'm getting paid to just walk around and stare at plants, and then a couple months later you're like, again, another
yeah,
day of just staring at these plants and picking them up. Like, it's got
picking
to
them
be
up
more
and
to
putting
life.
them down. So
Yeah.
if I say pot weight like too loud here in the facility, like people's hair stands on the back of their necks. Like they literally hate it. There was an audible cheer from the all staff meeting when I told them that we're going to have AROYA in every single room before the end of the month. People were like so ecstatic that they didn't have to pick up the plants anymore. But little do they know there's going to be so much more that they're going to get out of this than just stopping the back-breaking work. They're going to learn all the things they wanted to learn when they got in here. That's the first thing I hear from any person. I just want to learn about everything. I want to become the best gardener, the most knowledgeable one. And then they realize that you're picking up and putting down plants for, half your day, and then you're pruning for the other half. And that doesn't sound that fun when you break it down like that. You and I love gardening. Gardening is, therapeutic,
Oh
really.
yeah.
Like you can just zone out, throw on my headphones and zone out for hours just getting into the garden. But I've had the chance to be in this industry for a while and learn a lot from other growers and other companies, get my degree, learn from professors, learn from you, just chatting with you every week, learning from the grafts themselves, that these guys are actually going to learn something while they're here. It's not just this fool's gold of, you'll learn a lot. What you'll learn is that it's really hard work, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It's not as high a profit when you consider the amount of work that goes into it.
no, for sure.
That's
And we save a lot now because of it. So that's huge too.
yeah, and I mean, everyone was staying healthier, doing lunges every morning around the whole facility, I'm sure, but I know I don't miss doing that
No,
at all.
no. There's not a lot that I miss. Right? And every year, this industry just gets better and better and easier and easier. I mean, Seth, I was vacuuming water out of trays. That was my job. They called me Janitor Josh. The first 3 months that I got into the garden, 8+ years ago, they called me Janitor Josh because I would walk around and every tray was just tapered a little bit that all the plants sat on in every room, and I would vacuum that water up. And now I have drainage in my rooms. Right? That's just one thing that's like,
Yeah.
If you build it from scratch, you can have all the perfect things and the right things and make everyone's life easier. So, dude, things have changed so much, and I think it's foolish to not jump on the AROYA bandwagon right now and make sure that you're getting, literally the best gardener in your facility, better than myself. AROYA is a better gardener than me. I'll be the first to say that. I can't, stick my finger in that pot and tell you what's going on. It's not ever going to happen.
No, but at the end of the day, Josh, it does always take someone who's knowledgeable enough to manipulate this graph, because I always tell people, like, hey, there's some great values on this graph and the numbers, but if you don't know how to make these changes, you can easily be focusing on the wrong thing all day. If you don't
I
know how
appreciate
to
you saying that,
accomplish,
Seth.
yeah, if you don't know how to, I mean, let's just talk about HVAC. The amount that you've learned in, let's say, the last 4 years on big HVAC systems is probably mind-blowing compared to what you would have thought about before that.
Oh, absolutely.
And, you have to have these skills to make these changes. If I say, hey, dude, you got to get your humidity down from 80 to like 65 in here, if you don't know how to make that happen at the end of the day, you're not going to get anywhere. So there's still this huge human factor. But I agree with what you're saying. AROYA doesn't sleep, dude.
It does not sleep. It
It keeps
allows me to
going.
sleep, and I mean, no, there's definitely the human factor. But like I said earlier, like this is what I'm trying to get my team to use AROYA for on a regular basis. Is like this is a hotline. You're getting a call in that something's going on. Hey, there's a problem planting F6, go check it out. And now people can go run down there. And now the human gardener nuance portion comes into play of, is this doing what it's supposed to? Does this look the way that it's supposed to? Does it look the way that everybody else looks? Okay, it doesn't. Why doesn't it? Is it better? Is it worse? Rather than just kind of walking through the garden, like I said, and just saying, yeah, everything's alive. Plants are green. That used to be a joke with us when somebody would ask you how the room is going. You'd be like, oh, plants are green.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know. I can't tell you where we're at saturation wise. I can't tell you where we're at in, in all those areas, but I can now. I certainly can now.
Absolutely. Well, Josh, I think we're coming up on time here.
For sure.
Going.
Yeah, we went pretty
That's
long.
Okay, dude. I really appreciate it, man. It's always great to talk to you, and I'm so happy to hear that you're doing so well with the system. I mean, I get to talk to you every week, but got to acknowledge that in public. I'm always stoked when people pick it up and run with it, because there is so much there, and it's just a lot to take in at once. Sometimes maybe that's the hardest part.
Yeah, definitely.
Slowly level into it.
Yeah, a bit of a learning curve, but you get the hang of it pretty quick if you spend the time with it.
Yep, exactly. Well, man, we better get going. I've got some other things to do today. You got to finish out your day at some point.
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, right. Well, Seth, I appreciate you having me, and I'm honored, honestly, to be here. So great to talk to you, and I know that you and I will talk soon.
Yep, we will. All righty,
Awesome.
Josh. Well, you take it easy,
dude.
man. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
Everyone out there, thanks for tuning in. Bye. All righty.